Kate join us for the executive session part?
Yeah.
So how are we gonna do that?
We're gonna walk.
Yeah,
over
I'll
to
figure
the-
it out. You are amazing.
Kate, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Kate, for the executive session, we're gonna do a breakout room, so I'll set that up in a few minutes and then you just join that room. And then you
Okay,
can
you'll send me a box will pop up, right?
right, yep.
Perfect.
I try. Yeah, I would only do that for like a short time. Like, you know, it doesn't, after.
So is the HVAC that is broken, is that what we already had fixed, or is it that we haven't fixed it yet?
Now, we come out with the process. So
Okay.
So the reserve fund transfer,
Yeah.
yes, went through, they went out there, it worked for maybe 2 days, 48 hours.
Excellent.
And then yesterday, it stopped. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Justin.
So Kyle, who just walked by,
Yeah.
was not pleased with that. And gave me some words, and they were out there again today. According to what Kyle told us, according to the contract with Martel.
Yeah.
They need new parts. Pretty standard contract story of them to get new parts.
Yeah.
Which hopefully happens tomorrow. But this morning at the department meeting, which is why even if we don't have to anybody, because I said, like, look, if it starts to get hot throughout the day, I'm not asking them to support, just do this. Majority of the folks.
Yeah.
So, and that's what happened. That's the day, apparently about 1 or 2 o'clock. People started feeling pretty stuffy. I think Diane, our new technical clerk, who may or may not even join us. She was feeling it.
Okay.
Yeah,
We joined by Zoom.
she may join us. Yeah, but I said, like, if she does, great. If she doesn't, because she wanted to be here first. She has to come back in a couple weeks to get it all. Feel pretty good about the distance to the.
Yes, Kate, can you help us with the text? Can one of the board members project a little bit and talk to people during the meeting?
Testing.
Hello?
1, 2, 3.
Hi, I can hear you.
Yay, we can hear you too.
Good.
Okay, thank you. We didn't have to go upstairs, we just went.
We were gonna go where? We're just gonna walk over the. Whatever you do.
Okay, oh, so this is the part where all this.
No, he's not joining us. He'll join us by Zoom at the start of meetings.
That one. Okay.
I will get the executive session minutes for next meeting.
Yeah, was Chris just open joining us, or is
He was gonna join us online, right?
Oh,
But he didn't think he'd be able to make it for the 6:30, so he joined us instead. Online.
There's still some work in that.
Those are for,
and the gifts are right behind. Yeah, it's great, we got to invite Alana and Hillary. We were part of the.
Oh, I guess that's true. No, they didn't think it. I work with these guys. A lot of generally comes.
I think she won. Alright. I didn't get a chance to make them.
I don't call the meeting of order with majority. Present, we are going to give a meeting and bring it to executive session. To discuss strategy with respect to litigation. We're hoping to discuss that. Now. Discuss the MCA with the complaint last month. Maynard. The strategy for the station. Personnel. Open session there.
So you're good in there, just unmute in there.
Talking about, I mean, professionals, laborers, fire chief, director of plan works with this administrator. So, session requires a roll call vote to enter into. Here, yes. I'm not here. Yes.
You made the motion, I'll second.
Yeah. Armin? Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Yes. Final, two, next.
see this play out. They should be less confident because they don't have antitrust resentment, so, while they do believe
Yeah. You want to share?
I have. All right. We good to go.
Just a reminder that, yeah.
Sorry for the slight delay, that's the clock. Gonna reconvene in open session. We normally would do the pledge of allegiance, flags hidden, so. And we one on each side. So we'll, with all due respect to our country. Skip that. So the first item on the agenda for us in open session is the public comments. And we have people here tonight, or people online. Does anybody have public comments? If so, please speak up, raise your hand. However. Don't see anybody up. Michael. Yeah, you're too far away from me. You're Ronco, is it?
Yeah, Geritano. Yeah, thank you. You can hear me all right?
I can hear you. Go right ahead,
Great.
sir.
Thank you for your time. I just wanted to make just a public comment to address what I think is a growing safety concern at the intersection of Concord and Brook Streets. I do believe it's one of the only four-way stops in all of Maynard. Actually, I think certainly the only one in a relatively highly trafficked area. I live here. I'm at the intersection every day. We use the school bus, regular walkers in the neighborhood and into town. And I do believe, as my neighbors do, that it needs a bit of attention. Cars can miss the stop sign entirely. They do every day. They slow instead of stop, and it can be dangerous to cross. In addition to the stop signs, it's not uncommon to get 18-wheelers on the road headed to Shaw's or wherever, which they actually shouldn't be, because I think there's a weight restriction on Summer Street. But I just want to just make three quick notes that, I would really love to see crosswalks there, ideally four, but at least two running across Concord. There are 3 crosswalks on Concord Street at the bike path, at Brown Street and at Summer Street, but none here or really relatively close to that intersection. So I believe they would increase pedestrian safety, of course, and maybe call more attention to the stop signs themselves. I did suggest this to DPW last year, was told it would be reviewed as part of their line painting program. So, thank you to Justin for that. He's always responsive. And then second, I think the stop signs could be a little more pronounced. Trees often overhang them. I think there's some work on that. I cut them back myself sometimes. But I've seen, reflector panels on signs or signposts in Hudson and other neighboring towns. So I just wanted to mention that. And then just a note to say, we always appreciate the policing. It can be inconsistent, but it has been more frequent of late. So I think that helps. So again, just wanted to note it as I think it should be addressed. Obviously, there are busier intersections in town, but as far as four-way stops go, I think this one needs a little bit of attention. If I should bring this up somewhere else, I could. I wasn't sure, so I just wanted to say it here. And thank you again for your time.
You brought it to the right spot. Thank you.
Thank
What is your address, just for the record?
My address is 32 Concord Street.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I should have said that at the outset. Yeah.
That's okay. We will mention it to, or the administration will mention it to DPW as well as the police. They can give their opinions on what the best approach might be. But thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you again.
By the way, for people watching, Chris Silva is with us. He's actually online this evening. So he is, although he's not
It's here.
here, he is here. All right, any other public comments, either online or here in the room? See, the Picarelli family has questioning whether or not they should speak.
No.
So, okay, good. Yeah. That's great. For hybrid meeting, we should
Probably do it is someone kind of like this claim in case that goes down. So
All right, so I'll read the record. I'll
As much as we love it so much.
Yeah. Public meeting, script. So David Gavin, I think it's confirmed with us. Chris, can you hear us?
I can.
Great. Good evening. This open meeting of the select board is being conducted by a hydrant. Some speakers on the agenda will be participating remotely and we will allow by comment by Zoom. The board would like to hear public comments. If there's further action that is required by us, the chair will add the matter as appropriate to the board. Depending upon the comment, the board may, if we're able, within the confines of the open meeting law, respond to information as opposed to the. Note that while an option for remote attendance and participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the broadcast unless it's otherwise required by law. The agenda was posted for this meeting on the town's website and identified how the public will join us. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, be aware that other people may be able to see you and take note on the screen share your computer as anything broadcasting. All of the meetings for this material, all of the materials for this meeting, except for the executive session materials, are available on board docs and we recommend members of the public follow the agenda as opposed to other members, unless the chair. Yeah. All right, sorry about that. Town administrator report. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's materials for the police department. So, board members, or Greg, go through it, the highlights.
Oh, I'm just gonna highlight, I think it's on this big agenda tonight. We have a new town clerk. Diane Reardon, it's not physically with us. I don't know if she's gonna join us online, but she'll introduce herself. She is upstairs in bed, so. We're excited about the new town clerk, and then we'll be looking forward to the process for the assistant town clerk. The town clerk's office back. That's it. I mean, I always encourage the public to look at the town administrator report, which is online, and all the departments into it, so please take a look. It's got a lot of information, beautiful pictures. Please. That's it.
I got a quick question. In regards to 61 somewhere.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it's closes on being.
Yeah, I only got the one. Guess what? Hard space. So, when I evaluated it, I issued them a letter of award today. So now we can go through negotiations. So let's get back to the board. I would love to get it back to the board. I mean, at least agreement, the sample agreement was included in part three, but I don't expect things to be that before. So we'll see. They'll tell me what they think about the agreement. I'll ask our town council what they think about it. I'll get it to the board.
The first time that they saw that agreement happened.
No, because it's attached to the RFP.
The RFP.
So they see it.
That's all.
Yeah.
All right. Item number 5 on the agenda is the select board FY23 organization plan. As the public knows, every year, first public meeting of the year, where we reorganize and selects a chair of the fiscal year. Fiscal and the time was for that. So I want to just say that I have had, it's been a tremendous honor being chair last year. I want to thank my colleagues for their support and their guidance and all of the public stuff. Their support and their guidance and Maynard is a wonderful town to represent, wonderful town to be a part of. I'm so honored to serve in this change. Thank you. Having said that, we are now committed to board organization. That's why asking if there are any motions to serve as the speaker.
I can make a motion to use. Your policy.
Our policy says we have to switch. Yeah, our policy, which I strongly support. Chair. 1 year.
I would be interested in.
I'll make a motion. Any further nominations? Chris, anything?
I didn't hear what the nomination was.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm sorry, the nomination was for Jeff.
Okay. No problem.
So, we'll do a roll call. Carmen? Yes. Myself, yes. Christine?
Yes.
Chris?
My support. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you can take those.
You want to continue? Well, you organized the meeting, I hear with the public, with the recognition of the town.
Yeah, okay. I'll continue. But if you want to hold this.
Okay. Thanks to that.
David, Mr. Chair, I'm getting some comments that the audio, they can't hear us as well. I think with the air conditioning, which is good, but we really need to project, as a reminder. So I apologize.
I apologize if you haven't been able to hear me. I don't want to yell. But we need to have nominations for our clerk. For fiscal year 23. Are there any nominations for clerk?
I nominate Justine.
That a boy, Armand?
Is there any other nominations? Hearing none. We'll take a
There
roll.
wasn't a second.
Yes.
Is there a roll call there will be a roll call vote for Justine as clerk. Chris,
As long as she's willing to accept, yes.
Armin,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes. I mean,
yes.
Yes.
Congratulations.
thank you,
Thank you,
Justine.
Justin. All right. The next thing is assigning liaisons for fiscal year 23. Now, I don't have the list.
The only thing that I'm requesting, and I know I had to ask some step down as liaison to the economic development committee when I went back on again.
Fine by me.
And I just want to question about successful centennial planning. Committee. That's the lack of, so we have the numbers.
Oh,
Because it was an FY 22 meeting.
all of that.
Yeah.
So like I was gonna note that we don't have the sustainability.
We have two.
Yeah.
So is the green communities active? Because that's on there.
No, that's a good point. I don't know if it's like active access. There might be a legal requirement that we still have to sign his name, but well, that means it's not very much work. Really.
But yeah, I would like to continue working with sustainability.
I have no problem. Also, you want to stay on the. I'm not saying that because I went on.
I'm happy to do that. I don't necessarily need to be chair, but I'm happy to stay on. I think there's always some work that can continue on for next year.
Yeah, I mean, unless someone else wants it. I'm having a hard time hearing you and I'm in the room.
Okay.
There's a whole row up here. Nobody wants.
That inch closer too.
So,
And Justine, you've been doing work. Right?
Hi.
Do you want to continue on with that one?
yeah. I'm fine keeping it. I think I have a good relationship with Board of Health, but if someone else wants it, I'm happy to. So I really can,
I'm fine with you taking that.
Okay.
We haven't been-
Alright. we can do that.
Chris, anything that you want to switch or drop?
Oh, I am I'm happy with all of the, liaisonships I'm involved with, and unless somebody has one that I'm involved with that they really want to jump into, I'm fine with all of them. And I just want to say congratulations to Jeff and Justine, but I'm gonna, because I've got to run. I kind of have a bunch of people waiting. No one else can drive the boat. Sorry.
Now we have a
At least you're being honest.
Oh, yeah.
But congratulations to you both. I look forward to it. And again, I'm great with every every participation in liaisonships I have. And if you guys, anybody, wants to take one that they really have an interest in, it's fine. Just let me know. But otherwise, all's good.
Make sure you put that captain's hat on.
Thank you. Have a good
Yeah, I'll see you all soon.
vacation.
Thank you, Chris. Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
Have a great night. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, so then the next item on the agenda is for our goal setting planning. Relative to, we have an annual meeting typically that is off schedule. Where we meet at a secret location, by the joke.
It is publicly
We
publicized.
we meet in a public meeting, sometimes not in town hall, but just so we have a different environment to discuss it. But everybody's always welcome. Set a date for that goal setting meeting. I think it might have already been on our calendar at some point, set up, and put out a proposed calendar for this coming year. What are the thoughts on when we might have?
Are we thinking a weekend or a weeknight?
I think
We meet tonight.
works better.
That was sometime in October.
We've had it a lot earlier than that.
A lot earlier than that.
Yeah.
Right, so generally the board discuss, they're not necessarily finalized the annual goals. So having a. Okay.
But we gotta work it around people's schedules, vacation plans, what have. Today's the 12th. By the way, I saw on the agenda that says the next meeting is on the 20th, next Wednesday.
Oh.
Well, that's there, so it's next,
and
it's, no, it's 26th, Tuesday.
It's the 26th.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we went second and fourth.
Okay, all right. Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So getting back to the.
Do you know where we had it last time?
We had it in July.
Was it?
Hold on, I guess.
It was August, but I
Okay.
don't know, I don't.
All right.
Good look at it.
Might be-
What about the first or second week of August, just the first one now?
We'll do like the 10th, where we have it.
We had it on the 22nd of July.
I'm good on the 10th.
How about the 10th of August?
Chris, are you okay?
No, I'm glad.
You're gonna share that with that.
How far?
All right, we're gonna say 6:30. I think last year we went 6:30.
Yeah.
Good to me.
Yep.
No one walk over here.
Don't walk behind here.
Sorry, so what was the date that Gail said? Wednesday, the 10th.
August
Okay.
10th? Does that work?
6:30.
Megan, you'll be on vacation.
Yeah.
Location to be determined.
No, that's okay. I'll try you. I'll help you do it. I can, yeah, so what are y'all thinking? We go back to the mill, we can go to the pool, I don't know. We can do it here in the room, but I, in the town hall, but I like to encourage the board to have sort of like, not to be removed from public, but like outside the normal
Outside, yeah.
business, that way you're focused on. So having it in the middle was a good option. I thought it was convenient. We could go to the library. We could go to, maybe I could ask Will DeLillo to do the sanctuary, but he does it for free. I don't know what you're saying.
Sanctuary is too big.
Is, so
Lesser than the bar.
the COA, is that not fit over the golf course?
Yes,
It wasn't.
We had it there 2 years ago.
You want to go, where'd you go?
I like
That would be fine with me.
It's fine by me.
See you later, all right.
Yeah.
I'll ask.
Does that work for you, Mr. Chair?
Works for me.
Mr. Chair?
August 10th.
What time do y'all want to start? 6:30. 6:30.
Wednesday.
Say August 10th?
Yep.
Assuming Chris can make it.
That's true.
Oh, yeah. 6:30. No.
All right, okay, autocorrect changes it to gold every single.
All right. With that, we'll move on to item number 6, acceptance of minutes. So sets of minutes to accept one from June 7th. June 21st.
Move to accept and approve the meeting minutes on June 7th, 2022 and June 21st, 2022 as shown. Second.
Is there any comments or questions about either of those sets of minutes? Given that we do not have a remote member, we could vote by hand raise. So all in favor? Motion passes. All right, correspondence. We have A through F in the correspondence. Is there a motion to accept? Actually, is there any questions on comments from any of the correspondence?
Just a quick, I know we also had an email from Ellen in regards to some Bridget Cemetery, so that's something that we need to.
That is-
discussed.
That's on the.
On the agenda.
Oh, it is, that's right.
No, it's there.
Like 3 of
It is all the way down, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Sorry about that.
And my comment would be just a recognition of the graduated senior Grace Wild, who received the Board of Selectmen scholarship. She sent us a nice thank you note for the scholarship. To congratulate Grace, we congratulate, as we have all the graduating seniors from Maynard, not only from Maynard High School, all of the schools. So, we've made a motion and seconded on.
I don't know that we have to do a motion. I'll move to accept the correspondence items A through F as presented.
Second.
Okay, any other comments or discussion? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 8 are consent agenda items. We have 2 of them. First, is reappointments.
Oh, sorry. You missed
That'd be number 8.
Are you gonna?
Are we gonna go one by one?
Yeah, this,
We just have to read them off.
Okay.
The way the motion is written,
Yeah, right
is
on,
to move to approve the consent
And
agenda.
that's something we do.
So I'll move to approve the consent agenda items A and B as presented.
second,
Further comments, or questions? All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. All right. The next item is item number 9, and this is a long time coming. It's to recognize our annual, let me sort of give us a background as to how this comes to be. Every year, there's a tradition in Maynard that the chairman of the select board, the chairman of the school committee, and the chair of the finance committee get together and receive nominations that come in from either the public, members of the administration, members of the staff, members of the boards, various boards throughout town, for recognition of people who have, in the eyes of the nominators, gone over and above for our community this year. And this year, we all those nominations come in and they're reviewed. We had a meeting that got this one, what's been in April at some point. And we review the nominations, we discuss them, and we discuss, pick the ones that we feel that was deserving. And this year, we had 2 employees that were recognized and 1 committee as a whole that was recognized. And we wanted to recognize them at town meeting, which is our tradition. But because town meeting was moved to a remote, to an outside situation, the moderator asked that we not do anything other than just announce the names of the honorees. And so we decided that as a board that we wanted to recognize these individuals and volunteers personally and here at one of our meetings. Tonight is the night that we're ready to do that. And the first nominee is an employee of the town of Maynard, works for the library. And the nomination that came in for her was flowing with enthusiasm about all that she had done relative to keeping the library alive during the pandemic, keeping things active, and making sure that the library continued to thrive as it does for all of us. And that is Sally Thurston, employee of the library. Is Sally online?
Looks like it. See her name.
I don't see her.
She's,
You
yeah, the name is right there.
Oh,
It's under Lana.
And when she's not muted.
she's not muted. Sally,
is,
There she is with it. Yeah.
Oh,
you may be muted. We want to say congratulations and thank you for your well-deserved honor.
you just.
And we've got a beautiful citation.
When I brought it late and I brought it out, I thought I was gonna put it out, I brought
I don't know.
it. Till
A beautiful citation for you, as well as a nice gift bag that we will be presenting to everybody. That has been not that. A nice gift bag, the bag itself, and included in the bag is a beautiful jacket. Believe me, it's beautiful, with the town seal on it that will keep you warm in the cooler months. Please do not wear it today. So thank you, Sally. Congratulations. The next nominee is sitting in the back of the room. And that is Becky Moss. And many of you know that Becky has been the administrative assistant for not only the board, but for a town administrator and various roles throughout the years that I've been involved in town, and always has been so helpful to so many of us. And in the coming months, we won't say when or how or whatever, she's going to slip away and retire. And we want to congratulate her on that. And because of that, we also didn't want her to leave town hall without her understanding the thanks and love that we have for all that she's done for us over the course of time, and very much appreciated. And she really is the eyes and ears of the community in many ways, because when people come into town hall, Becky Moss is who they end up speaking to when they want to have something to do with us. It's sort of our buffers now, and for that, we very much appreciate it. So Becky, congratulations, thank you. And I don't know how here it is. Here is your. Are we gonna take pictures? Yeah. And then lastly, we were presented with, there were other nominees, and the board decided that given the importance of our 150th birthday and the success of all of the events that we had as a community over the course of last year, that actually stretched probably a year and a half now. All of the events, all of the just the various activities, I mean, you can't name the amount of work that went into it to make sure that everything went out without a hitch. The parade that we had was fabulous, the fireworks that we had, the opening of the time capsule event that we had, the tours for the community that were so important to so many that everybody loved. There's just so much going on all year long. And oh, don't forget, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And so the fact that these things all went off so wonderfully and everybody still to this day is speaking about it. And I don't think we'll be forgotten for quite some time. I know that 50 years ago, I wasn't a Maynard resident, but I was in Maynard for the parade for the 100th birthday. And I still remember that parade. I'm hopeful that the children that were there this year, in the age that I was, I think 50 years ago, they're 50 years older, will have the same memories of that event as I do from an abutting community, not even living in Maynard, and we still have memories. So let me read off the names of those that we are honoring, and I hope I have everybody's name here, and if I don't, I apologize. We have gifts for everybody here too that include the same jacket, which is wonderful. So we'd like to recognize and thank Molly Bergen, Charles Karajanis, Paula Copley, Lisa Dayhill, Ellen Duggan, David Griffin, Donald James, David Marks, Elizabeth Papanchi, Lindsay Papanchi, Jennifer Picarelli. Thank you all. Yeah.
Sorry, we'll get there. You guys want? Yeah. Thank you. I don't think you do. Yeah. Of course. The literal last one. I'm going to do that. Thank you.
Everybody get their bags.
Thank you.
No.
Lisa.
Oh, Lisa's there.
Yeah.
I got it.
All right, and Paula.
Paula got hers.
Oh, Paul, everybody?
Thank you. And you did a job. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
For everything.
You all deserve a standing ovation.
All right. That was wonderful, although I suspected photographs.
Oh, I'll just, you want me to come take your picture? I'll be.
Not of me. Not of me. All right, item number 10 on the agenda, and please feel free to hang around if you like to have a plate. Is appointment. We have 3 appointments to tonight. And Lisa Dunn online.
Yes.
Lisa, I see you.
I'm here.
Hi.
Hi,
You are interested in joining the Cultural Council?
I am.
And give us a little bit of background on yourself and why you're interested in joining the Cultural Council.
I grew up with cultural councils. My mother started Randolph's before there was even a mass cultural council.
I went to Berklee College of Music and Walnut Hill School for the Arts, so I have an interest in arts. And basically, the reason I want to join it now is because I've started working remotely, so I have more work-life balance. And now that I can be around town more, I'd like to become more involved.
Wonderful. Are there any questions from the board on Lisa and her desire to be on the cultural council?
I had the opportunity to meet with Lisa, and I think she should be a great addition. And I also look forward to working with you on the cultural district side, so that'll be a fun time to spend.
Yes, it will. Thanks, Armand.
I want to thank you for, I mean, obviously we asked everyone to fill out the questionnaire, but you put a lot of information into that. So I really appreciate the time that you took to fill that out and pretty much answer most of our questions. It looks like, it would be great to have you on the committee.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
No, I didn't know you were at Walnut Hill. I just had the opportunity to see a show there just the other day, and it blew me out of the water how professional the show was and the production value, which is to be expected with everybody, looking for that for a career. But it was a nice extra little bit of information. But I appreciate just seeing the questionnaire filled out, and I think you'll be a fantastic addition. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there a motion?
Move to appoint Lisa Dunn to the Cultural Council for a term to end June 30th, 2024.
Second. Goes to Armin. And any further comments? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor?
Thank you, Lisa.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very
Lisa,
much.
for yourself and for all of the folks that might get appointed this evening, please be aware you need to stop in at the town clerk's office to get sworn in before you're eligible to vote.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
You too. All right, item number B under appointments is for two people. We'll go one at a time, who are interested in being appointed to the Council on Aging. First is Jan Rosenberg. Jan, are you on?
She emailed me saying that she couldn't hear us, and I emailed her back saying, please try again, but I don't see her now. So,
She's not here.
no,
Okay. And how about Mary Miskovich?
I don't know.
Mary, are you online? I don't have the documents in front of me. Did they fill out their forms and?
Yeah,
did
so-
everybody-
Look
is
at
everybody
Jan's now.
comfortable with what's there? And
It just so happens I was at that board meeting, the COA board meeting, and they spoke, and they're gonna be great additions, both of them have passion. I think it'll be
okay, so without objection, we can take a motion on both of them.
I'll move to appoint Jan Rosenberg and Mary Miskovich to the Council on Aging with terms to end June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Any further comments or questions? All in favor? Motion passes. And the third approval is the Historical Commission, Michaela Collar. Michaela, is it Kohler or Collar?
It's Kohler.
Collar. Darn it, I got it the second time.
It's all right. It's one or the other usually, so that's okay. I answered to both.
Hi, Michaela. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in the Historical Commission.
Yeah, so I have a bachelor's in anthropology from UMass Amherst and a master's in landscape archaeology from the National University in Galway, Ireland. I've just always been interested in history and culture and bringing those things into community. I currently work at the American Antiquarian Society in Worcester, so I'm very much involved in local history and making sure that it's accessible and engaging and just, there for folks. Specifically, I'm very landscape minded, obviously, with the landscape archaeology background, and very much just about preserving history for the future. So I attended the latest Historical Commission meeting and had a wonderful time, and the folks are really inviting, and I look forward to being a part of it and helping maintain Maynard's history.
Sounds great. Any questions or comments from the board?
the antiquarian site is a gem that not a lot of people are aware of, and so I really appreciate having your passion join us. So looking forward to having you on the historic commission.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Then we'll take a motion.
I'll move to appoint Michelle F. Caller to the Historical Commission as an alternate member for a term to expire June 30th, 2025.
Second. Okay, any, motion's made and second. Any further comments? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you,
Thank
Mikhail.
you,
Thank you,
Michaela.
Michaela. Good luck. Don't forget, as I said before, get to town hall for the town clerk's office.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening.
Have a great evening.
Bye.
All right, item number 11, we've got a series of issues under the use of town property. First one is the abutting land to the new fire station at 32 Sudbury Street. And is this the one with the sprinkler system?
Yes, so and I can see Mr. Lisa is on. Thanks for showing up, Tony.
Yeah, thank you.
And I understand that the board did consider this last meeting.
We did.
Did have some questions, and I can appreciate that. And the board had directed that DPW, particularly town engineer Wayne Amico, went back out to visit the site and give a new perspective, which he provided in a memo submitted to the board and to the public, which Mr. Lisa has read. Justin DeMarco, the Director of Public Works, also provided his comments in an email, which I also uploaded and provided to the board. And myself, I talked further with Mr. Lisa, both, I don't know, a week or two ago as well as today. So if you would, Mr. Chair, I have a little more of my own recommendations at this time.
Yeah, sure, please.
Okay. This is more complicated than I think you would, what's that?
Mr. Substitute Chair.
Please continue, Greg.
The chair. So, this, for some reason, is more complicated than it would seem. So and being out to the site twice as I have, by the way, it takes about 4.5 minutes to walk from town hall to the new fire station. I did cut across the branch line, but I think Mr. Lisa is trying to be a good neighbor, as I noticed in the minutes, and I think, you know, other people have commented well, and he's been a good partnership, and he's been cooperative to the town in the construction next door, and I think he did a great job on the site as is, like on his ownership, the property that he owns. It's beautiful, and I think he wants to maintain the attractiveness of that site. The vegetation that was planted there, yes, it is on the border and some on his side, was a requisite of the special permit for the fire station. So it is kind of like strange bedfellows we find ourselves, that there's town issued vegetation on his property that he wants to maintain, both for you know, he has a vested interest in that looking good. It's not the most complicated vegetation. It is just perennial shrubs. So, but you do have to make sure it's maintained for about a year to make sure, you know, 2 growing seasons to make sure it's going to last. And that's what he wants to do. So, based on my conversation I had today with Mr. Lisa, what I propose to the board's consideration is not yet to go into a formal agreement as has been provided in a draft from town council. Because right now, what exists is only a partially completed landscaping scheme. So if you were to look at some of the pictures I took or some of the overhead, you would see that the landscaping only goes most of the way, but not all the way up the driveway that separates between the 2 properties, like the driveway into his residence. Not his residence, he doesn't live there, but the residence of his ownership. And then it kind of stopped because they're still doing a lot of construction on the exterior of the fire station, which would then become the parking lot for the firefighters in like the back corner of the fire station, right behind Mr. Lisa's property. And that's not there yet. So what Mr. Lisa wants to do is put a drip line down. He also wants to do some sprinklers to make sure the lawn in that little corner is going to look good, which is fine. We're obviously concerned about the shrubs and the perennials. But a drip line might be the trick, which Wayne Amico does say. He says you can either do it by sprayers or you can do it for sprinkler or whatever he calls it, or drip lines. And drip lines, I think, does answer one concern of Wayne and Justin's, in that it's not going to be subterranean. They can just lay down on top. And it would be controlled by Mr. Lisa, which I think is advantageous. Right now, in our contract with LD Russo, the general contractor for the fire station construction, puts them responsible for subcontracts or otherwise to make sure it maintains, which is good, but it is, I think, advantageous to have someone like Mr. Lisa, who owns the property next door, to be in control of just making sure the water gets where it needs to be for his purposes, keeping it looking nice. So I'm proposing that we kind of put a pin in this, and when the construction develops and we can actually see what, you can see from overhead, you can see from schematics that there's a little bit of peninsula of the shrubs that kind of goes, it's kind of a strange little bit of the wall that goes into the town's property, but it kind of creates a box for the parking of the fire station. But I personally, not being a landscape engineer or otherwise, I like to see things on site when they're done. So if the board is willing to entertain sort of like putting a pause on this for this moment, Mr. Lisa said that he is willing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, but that he is willing to put in the drip line at this time on his side of the property for the driveway up to where the construction occurs right now, which again, it's not the entire driveway, but it goes most of the way up. And then we can see, because the rest of the landscape is not there anyways, we can see exactly what we're asking of Mr. Lisa, or that he's asking of the town commission to do. And that, for my own benefit, that's what I would like. I know town council, of course, would recommend that we do have a formal agreement with Mr. Lisa just for our liability, for our protection, which does make sense. I try not to do formal agreements unless they're necessary. And in this case, I do trust that Mr. Lisa is trying to do the right thing. He wants to maintain a good looking border and sort of like be a good partnership with the town, and I can appreciate that. So anyways, I know I've kind of rambled for a bit, but I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, I think you kind of explained it pretty clearly, and it's good to hear that, Mr. Lisa's willing to go along with your recommendation. Is that-
For now, yeah, I know. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll install the one along the border and actually send some pictures on once it's installed, which will give everybody a feeling for what the other area might look like if we choose to do that. And, once that's planted, which is probably, from what I understand, mid to late September is what they're shooting for, we can make the decision on the rest of it at that point in time.
Does this approach sort of cover the concerns that Justin and Wayne had?
Yes and no. So they want to make sure that the vegetation lives. I mean, it would, although our contract with LD does require them to develop the site, which does include for especially for their vegetation line.
But how are they planning on maintaining
Right.
irrigation of water?
So I suspect that they would have a contract with the landscaping company to make sure the rest of it's installed, but then I want to make sure that someone on site, like not that Mr. Lisa lives there, but like his vested interest is pretty valuable to me, that he wants to keep it going. So that's that seems to make sense to me at this time.
Especially when you're using drip lines. I mean, drip lines are shooting, it's not gonna.
But Wayne and Justin's concern was that, one, it's not necessarily his responsibility to keep it looking nice, right? So he could walk away, and then what if they die, right? So maybe that's what perhaps like this agreement could be. But again, like that's a level of formality I'm trying to steer away from. But as well as like they're looking out for the town's property. And generally, we don't try to be reliant on anyone else to maintain our property. Not to say we don't trust Mr. Lisa, but that's just a general policy. If it's our stuff, we want to make sure that we can maintain it ourselves. They were concerned a little bit about the wall and what you can't see underneath, which is kind of like a French drain style with like gravel underneath. But if he's not going to be doing it under, like actually, he's not going to be digging anything, and if he's able to, and I'd like to see it that we can actually put the irrigation in a way, like through the drip lines, that hopefully it's not going to be so impactful in the ground. Like we're just talking enough to keep things alive for you.
So, I have so many questions, but first question is gonna be, so we're the ones who planted it, we're the ones who planted it on our property, correct?
No, actually, if you look at some of the pictures, it goes into their side.
And
But Mr. Lisa was I don't wanna claim how much level of involvement you've had, but like, he was at the table, I've been told, for the selection of those grants. Look at the, I think I'm trying to.
Yeah. So so in a nutshell, along the driveway are town plantings on my property, and around the parking lot are town plantings on town property. All which are being installed to, create a border, some visual attraction, because basically the entire lot was cleared.
Right, okay. So the next question I have is regarding the trees. Is there a reason that we don't have bags on them
Oh, I don't know, I'm sorry.
to make sure that to make sure they stay watered?
Sure.
That would be something that,
Sure.
I would think that, when the trees, when the tree four just
Yeah.
planted, the trees up at the high school.
Yeah.
There's bags there, and that's what they're, I know that that's helpful, so, because obviously we don't want to see the trees in distress, and we want to take care of them. But so that was my question about that, so right now, who's in charge of making sure the trees stay alive?
Well, there are no trees planted right now. There's just,
What are the woody, so what's the woody things that are standing, I'm looking at pictures of what I say are trees, are they branches, are they just bushes?
they're relatively small plantings. A tree bag would drown the root ball of that.
These are perennials, they're not.
But I'm looking at the one
The
picture,
one that he's talking about.
I don't know the species well enough to know like what requires.
All right, I'll do more research, I apologize, Mr. Lewis, I just wanted to, I want to make sure that obviously that we're doing our part as well. Because I kind of agree with Greg in the way of that, it honestly should, I appreciate you wanting to be a good neighbor, but honestly shouldn't fall on you either. It should be something, if it's town, if we're the ones who did this, we're the ones who should take responsibility for it as well.
Right, but that's sort of, they made the decision not to install irrigation, so the other option particularly for the perennials is for someone to do that manually on a regular basis, which I, with all due respect, can't imagine is going to happen.
No, I appreciate that.
So what do you need from us, Greg?
No, so it's up to the board. If you want to give me directions, move forward in negotiating that agreement that Lisa needs provided, I could do that with Tony. But otherwise, okay. So you either tell me what you want me to do or don't want me to do.
Well, I don't think anything should be finalized until we know what the full scope of what the landscape is going to look like, which I think is part of what you were getting.
Right.
You need to wait a bit, be patient, let us get the landscaping up before we install something that then has to be yanked out or
Right.
somehow altered. So I'm fine with that approach.
Okay.
And what's the time frame? Can you repeat that?
So Tony seems to know a little better than I, but we think in a couple of months is when they're gonna get to that portion. Yeah, you can look at some of the images I took, like there's still like.
So he was saying early fall, like September or so, September, October.
Yep. But as just relative to the stuff that's along the driveway, we're going to go ahead and, because that's on our property, put the drip lines on there now and send you some pictures to give you an idea of what the other area might look like. And then if we can come to an agreement to do the other area, that would be great. If not, that's what it is.
Okay.
Okay, Justine.
Yeah.
Here.
No, I'm still in, I'm good.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Lisa, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it very much.
It's good.
Yeah, I was.
All right, item B under the use of town property is Summer Street at Memorial Park. I'm sorry, I don't have access to my computer to be able to tell us what this is. For. This is for the library sponsored summer concert, which I thought we had approved a couple weeks ago.
Well, they want to close it straight.
Oh, it's closing the street.
Yep.
Okay. For the same annual concert that we've had in years past.
think it's the same. Do we have any, is Gene?
Yes. Yes, it's the same that we usually have. The annual summer concert in Memorial Park.
The question would be, have we spoken to the folks at specifically the movie theater?
Correct. Fine.
I don't know, Gene, does that ring a bell? Did we talk to Fine Arts?
No, we haven't talked to Fine Arts, although we're happy to do so. We've, had,
Before approving it, I want to make sure that we're not in any way hampering their business operation with the ice cream. I know the ice cream can be incorporated into the whole event because it can then be sold as part of the event, but they also have the movie theater and everything else. Who knows if it's a big premiere of Tom Hanks' next movie? Who knows?
yeah, I think it shouldn't conflict too much because it's in the afternoon. The concert's at 3. And I believe that their movies start at 4, but I could be wrong about that. But we've definitely had a very good relationship with the management there at Fine Arts Theater so far.
I suspect they'll have no problem, but I just don't want to surprise them by saying, hey, the road shut down on your business.
Sure.
So if we could, unless the board feels otherwise, I guess we could approve it with the condition that we get there.
So what are we proposing to close? We're closing at Wall. That entire thing, like from Walgreens to Mason Street,
Yeah, so I'm speaking for you, Gene, but please correct me.
from a center.
Maynard Acton to Mason.
Yeah, sorry.
Correct, right. From the intersection with Main and Acton, by the current fire station to Nason Street.
And is the intent, Gene, to just not have traffic flowing by and interrupting the musician, or are you going to be using that for area for people to sit?
There are 2 reasons we're doing it. One is so that as attendees, we expect, at least a couple hundred attendees, and as they're arriving and as they're exiting, we just wanted to make it as safe as possible for them to cross Summer Street if they park in the library parking lot or are coming from elsewhere and need to get across there. And then, yes, also the truck and motorcycle and car traffic that goes along there can sometimes drown out the concert itself.
That I totally understand.
Yeah, it's definitely a very heavily trafficked road.
Yeah.
Is there any concern about people coming out of, forgive me, I don't have the street, is it Glendale? The one that
The libraries.
that the library is on. If we close summer, if someone comes down there, there's nowhere for them to go.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They could go through the library parking lot to get to Nason.
You have a temporary detour.
There's that auto
Right.
shop that's across the street from them.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's a David Joe's shop. I don't think there's another driveway.
Yeah, so it
There's
would just be,
one
so
other
it has to be
one of the
closed.
parking areas
There is.
across from the movie theater.
Yeah, that's true. So do you, I don't know, what do you think about that, Gene? Do you think there's a concern about people trying to get out from Gleason?
Well, I don't think so because we have the exit onto Nason. There's no, I think anybody can get, whether they're on Glendale or they're in the library parking lot, they can get out onto Nason. My understanding is that this was done in past year. I've only been here a year and a half, so I always have to ask folks, what happened before? And Mark Malcolm, our children's librarian, assures me that this was done in past years. I think it's been a few years since the street was closed.
I don't remember the streets being closed, but.
He told me definitely when we had Peter Tork, he said we had the street closed.
Oh, I was away that weekend,
Yeah.
I don't know. No, that was recent. That was in the last, yeah.
But that was recent.
I think
Yeah.
that was about 10 years ago, maybe.
Would you like a
But-
police
I don't
detail
remember
there?
that one.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna.
What's that?
Would you like a police detail?
If the chief feels it's necessary,
Yeah,
I don't want to put it in.
Yeah, I know.
unnecessary.
If you, whatever, okay.
No, and it says, the police said they'll coordinate with the library if a detail is needed, so it's more, I think we'd just like to have the police weigh in on, Chief Noble and Deputy Chief Brown are good with trying to figure out, do we have to make arrangements for Glendale, or can we put a barricade at, put the barricade at the entrance to the library parking lot, so then, and then move it once it's open, so everyone can then leave that too.
I don't think there's gonna be a major problem in the approval of this. I think the concern that I would express is that we make sure that we've got our I's dotted and T's crossed before we approve it, so that we don't hit somebody with a surprise, so that we can notify the businesses that are there. We can also ask the police and say, hey, the fire department knows that there's gonna have to detour if there's an emergency up on the other side of town. So that everybody's on board, and then I think we'll be okay. So maybe we bring it back and,
Okay.
we still have time, right? The concert isn't until
Not till August 21st.
21st, so we have plenty of time.
Okay, so I should talk to the Fine Arts Theater and the police?
Yeah, please, Jean.
And so
Okay.
did you reach out to the fire as well? Because the fire's not commented here.
I see that. Becky, off the top of your head, do you know if the fire department chimed in? No, all right, we'll double check with. Can you talk to Tony Stars too? And please, Jean.
Sorry, what was that, Greg? I couldn't
Yeah,
understand.
you-
Speak to
but I'm
Tony,
not.
speak to Chief Stowers as well.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, I will do that.
Thanks, Jean.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And then we'll have it on an agenda in the next meeting or so.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. I'll send the information to Greg.
And Gene, I don't think that if it comes to the agenda the next time, I don't think there's a need for you to be there.
Oh.
You know, so
Okay.
you don't have to take your time and sit in on our meeting, although we'd love having you. Don't feel the obligation.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
and one more thing, sorry. Sally Thurston texted me and she wanted you to, she's actually attending another meeting while she was attending the select board meeting.
Oh, okay.
And she said she lost her phone for a minute right when you were, kindly presenting her with the award. And she wanted me very much to convey her thanks for recognizing her.
And you should be reversed, thanks to her.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right.
All right, then the next one, and I see Sarah Cressy is on, and I assume she's not here for fun, so there's two items on the agenda that I think Sarah is involved in, C and D, which is the Maynard Fest for October 1st and Downtown Trick or Treat October 22nd, the 27th rather. Are you involved in both of those, Sarah?
I remain muted. Will that be more fun? Yes, this would be, if we didn't have COVID, this would have been our 30th Maynard Fest and our 28th Downtown Trick or Treat. No major changes. I think last year the fest went very well. I took fewer vendors, gave them more space. I think everybody was comfortable with that. I think we've got to still deal with a few of the traffic areas for fest with Rise down there, but I'll speak with Chief Noble in the next couple weeks. They're very good at that. And so I'm just asking your permission to bring back those two events for the community of Maynard.
I'm fine with it. Were those canceled because of concerns from the Board of Health or just COVID in general?
I don't really remember the answer to that question. I think the first year we just canceled it. I don't even think we had a discussion with Megan the first year. It was just, it would have been, I mean, kids weren't going to school, right? It was just, we were not going to say, thousands of people, please gather together. 2021 was a little dicier. We worked with Megan quite closely in June and July, trying to get a sense. If you remember, Governor Baker said he was going to open up the government in August, and he actually took away the state of emergency in June. So we were a little flat-footed, but we worked very closely with Megan, just monitoring the situation closely with the state. And we decided to do Maynard Fest in 2021. Given some certain, we didn't do a lot of food. We were less on the touching activities. We did more of the site activities. But I ran Hudson Fest this past summer, and I think we're, other than giving vendors more room, I think we're back to running things a little more normally. And the improvements that we made due to COVID are actually very good. Having a little more room, giving a better flow. This last year, October was crazy. The kids were all going back to school. Everybody anticipated a potential surge. And with Fest, you have a choice to where you go. In downtown trick or treat, you don't always have a choice. You just have kids in a line, right? And so we made a decision in 2021 to run the fest and take a year off from downtown trick or treat. But we feel fairly confident. I've now run maybe 50 outside events over the last 2 years because I run Hudson's Farmers Market as well. And I haven't had anything yet, to my knowledge, that's been traced back to COVID. I'm sorry that was a long-winded answer.
Oh, that's fine. I'm good with moving forward. I just want to make sure that, again, the Board of Health is at least aware of what's going on, so that if they have some concerns, we can hear them. I don't know what the other board members think, but otherwise I'm good.
Good to go.
The only comment I had is I know last year the police detail started around the time that the event started, but there was a bit of confusion with the vendors setting up. Would it be possible to have the detail maybe start half an hour earlier just to help manage some of that, confusing traffic flow as vendors are trying to get in, set up and get out with their vehicles?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
So make a motion.
All right, yep, motion.
Move to approve the use of downtown area public ways, including Mason and Main and Summer Streets and the vicinity thereof on October 1st, 2022 for Maynard Fest, contingent upon adhering to all federal, state, and local public health and safety guidelines.
Second.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion passes. Downtown trick or treating?
I will move to approve the use of downtown area public ways, including Mason and Main and Summer Streets and vicinity thereof on October 27th, 2022, for the downtown trick or treat event contingent upon adherence to all federal, state, and local public health and safety guidelines.
Second.
Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? Motion passes.
As always, thank you, Sarah.
Great, Sarah, good luck.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Okay, item number 12 is St. Bridget's Cemetery discussion, which it generated somewhat from Alan Duggan's letter to us, but I think it became apparent when St. Bridget's Parish started to make announcements. Actually, it's now Ascension Parish.
Right.
Started to make announcements about their intentions for the future of St. Bridget's Church as a part of Ascension Parish, and other properties owned and controlled by the Archdiocese of Boston that are in Maynard. And one of the properties that they own, of course, is St. Bridget's Cemetery location. And it has been announced, and I think it is their intention to sell or somehow dispose of the unused portion of St. Bridget's Cemetery in the back. And the reason that this becomes important for the community in Maynard, obviously, is for a number of reasons. One is development issues, concerns about development, potential development. Secondly is our own, and we've had these discussions in the recent past, our own concerns about the amount of room we have left in our own town cemetery for future use and going forward. So this may be an opportunity for green space that we could use as other purposes, but also to control the area around the cemetery so that we have some flexibility in the long-term future of our community. I don't think we're going to solve this issue this evening, but rather just have a discussion about potential that we can have, whether it be reaching out initially to the Archdiocese, expressing an interest in being in part of the discussion. It would be nice if the Archdiocese would kindly donate the property to the town of Maynard, but I don't think the intent of the Archdiocese in making their announcement as to what their intentions are otherwise with the property in Maynard is to give it away, despite the charitable nature of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese.
So right now, we don't have an idea what the asking price is.
Or what
Well,
they're
it's been
selling.
assessed.
Assessed at what, how much?
No, so I looked up what because you can just look up what the property value is. And then I just sort of calculated by eyeball what about the square footage of what that might be, and I came up with a number which I don't recall what it was off the top of my head. Because I was first asked if the town would be interested in that. I believe, I don't recall who asked me first, but I doubt that's what I looked it up. And it was not a small amount. It's valuable property. I mean, like it is, it's a little odd because it's in the back quarter of what you could see as a say Bridget's cemetery. So access would probably have to come through what's called Old Mill Road.
Yeah.
And then Old Mill Road actually stops and then it kind of becomes like a paper street. Next to Oak Ridge. I'm looking at a map, I know you all aren't, but so anyways, you could continue that road feasibly, that it is possible to continue that road, which would allow you access to the rest of St. Bridget's. But I have been in touch with the Archdiocese, who did say that, as you know, who did verify what you're saying, David, that they are interested in selling that property. I'm not aware of any right of first refusal or any, you know, agreements with the diocese for that. You are also right that the town, you know, through Public Works primarily, is aware of our capacity at the Glenwood Cemetery, and that's only going to go so far. And
Has Justin weighed in on this?
yes, so he of course would be interested in being able to provide for extra capacity. That would probably require a little bit of easement rights to get to that, because it's not exactly that particular back quarter is not exactly abutting. There's another property that's between Glenwood and that back quarter. Yeah, Haynes.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of odd because and this is difficult for those of you at home, but if you're looking at the parcel map through the GIS version, you could see that Haynes property is actually landlocked, so to speak, by all town-owned property. So I don't know, there's a couple of different, I don't know, potential feasible ways of expanding the cemetery. I guess one could be looking at that town-owned property, that triangle that's north of the Haynes property. I don't know, that could be a stretch, and that would also require access through the Haynes property at this time. I'm not familiar with the Haynes property. I can see that there's water in there. I don't know if that also restricts any potential development, which I'm not sure. And then as much as I believe that the diocese would be charitable, I think the diocese probably, this is my suspicion, for their needs to meet the maintenance of the St. Bridget's, they need revenue. And that's a pretty partial that they could get for that back portion. I'm sure there's plenty of developers that would love to take it off their hands. So I do have my contact with the diocese. I have voiced my interest, as well as told them, because they're also considering the main campus of St. Bridget's as well. So they know. But I can call back again and say, please keep us in the loop and tell us what we can work out. But I'm just trying not to get people so upset.
Right, I think it raises a number of issues. One being the concern about the long-term viability of Glenwood Cemetery, how much we actually have in capacity. You hate to talk about it, but that's true. We several years ago had talked about potential columbariums as,
that's right.
As an
Well, that's very much on the table.
And I don't think it was not received with great enthusiasm, but I think people understand that that's something that's going to have to be considered if we want capacity for Maynard residents to be able to be interred in their hometown.
Right.
And then what the options are for Maynard residents, 50, 100 years from now, God knows what our options are.
Right.
So we have to think in terms of 100 years out, as opposed to 50 years like we might for a building, or what have you, in this particular situation. I also expressed, the whole issue with the church. I know there's a lot of people in the community that are concerned about what the plan is for the Archdiocese relative to having a Catholic church in Maine.
Right.
And that's people watching online and that's outside of our scope. We have no real control over it other than to express perhaps our desire to maintain a church in our community. But I do think we need to have some communication with the archdiocese about our interest. And then we have to see if the town has the stomach for considering a multi-million-dollar perhaps
Right.
expenditure to
Right.
purchase land for potential use 100 years down the road for burials.
Right, and the development of the land.
And versus the impact of development of land in Boston.
So the conversation is happening, and for the board's awareness, and I do appreciate both Ellen Duggan and anyone else that's made me aware of it, because that is important. That helps me sort of keep abreast of it. And of course, I then, met with Megan and Justin and Nemzer. Because we want to make sure we're all on the same page, and we can have these conversations and see what is possible and feasible, both financially and what's sort of like meeting our needs. So none of it falls on deaf ears for what it's worth. I know Ellen threw out a lot of different potential uses of that, and she's right, and whether it be sustainability, preservation, expansion of the cemetery. There's a lot of good. Although I went to the finance committee last night, and they say what they always say, which is their job, is to think about the bottom line and the potential revenue source that could be through the development of that nature.
Yeah.
So, right, lots to consider.
And the archdiocese is looking for, there's a whole big plan put out by Ascension Parish, including the desire to sell the school,
That's right.
the desire to sell the rectory,
That's right.
and perhaps a new Ascension Parish, not located in Maynard, and not located at the location of Our Lady of Fatima, Sudbury, but a new building entirely, new parish at a new location in either Maynard or Sudbury. Which could open up the door to them building a church on this land.
Yeah.
They're so interested
It's on the,
in-
that's literally, you could almost see Sudbury from there. Yeah. Interesting.
So,
Right.
anyway, I think it's a discussion we have to continue to have.
I agree. And I'll keep the board informed as to what I learned, because I need to do a little more research about some of these properties.
So we just can't let it die on the vine, no pun intended with
The cemetery.
cemetery space.
Very good.
Okay, item number 13 are contracts. We have 3 to discuss. The first one is the LRTA, which is Lower Regional Transportation Authority Operating Agreement, which is just an extension, I assume, of our current contract with the LRTA that allows us to use. We have the van
Yep.
and whatever.
Yep. It's more like an update, so that it's kind of an extension, but we already have a long-term agreement, but they update it every year. So this is this fiscal year, so 2023.
Are there any significant changes that we need to know about?
No, but
No.
they adjust the net service cost, so now it's 85,844. So that's broken up monthly that they pay us for providing services.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So for that, I don't think we need to have any further discussion. If there's a motion.
I'll move to approve the operating agreement with Lowell Regional Transit Authority for fiscal year 2023 in the amount of $85,844.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, then B is the HUD Capital Fund for the Maynard Housing Authority. You give us a little bit of brief on
No,
that.
I will, because this is new to me. So, so we do have a new director, executive director for the Maynard Housing Authority, who wanted to be in attendance this evening, Bonnie Morris, but she wasn't able to. She had some other obligation. But I told her she's always welcome, and I think the board would probably be interested in meeting her. She asked the board's endorsement, which I had to look this up, that there is a law relative to this, of the authority of the board. And again, this is kind of novel to me as well, because for the public's awareness, The housing authority works very much autonomously. They work very separately from town government. Like I don't consider them a department. They have their own elected board. They hire the director. I do try to have a good working relationship with the authority, but they get a lot of money from the federal government, so they're not really reliant on us. And this is another aspect of that. So they're asking for the board's endorsement of this annual contributions contract amendment 2 of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development 22 capital funding plan for the amount of $102,145. So they are quite reliant, of course, on this federal funding for their capital needs. Not entirely sure why the board has not been asked to endorse this in the past, at least to my knowledge. I asked that of Bonnie. She said she wasn't sure either, but she was asking for the board's endorsement in this case. And it seems straightforward.
Yep, anytime you can get money to a town organization.
Oh, yeah.
Really to the town without it costing our taxpayer.
Right.
Good to me. Any questions from the board? No. The motion?
Move to approve the annual contributions contract ACC Amendment 2 of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development 2022 Capital Fund Program for the Maynard Housing Authority in the amount of $102,145.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? And lastly, the Coolidge School at 12 Bancroft Street, Civico, an extension of the closing date. We all know that there's been a couple of extensions on this closing date. I think, though, from what I'm reading, we're getting very, very close. Although we've heard that before, but I think this time, it might be as close as we can get.
Yeah, that's all.
Then
I would love to get this place off our hands. Which I'm sure Mr. Bearden and the rest of Civico would love to take it off our hands. But they're still waiting on this historical preservation apparently, which requires a state approval. And Civico had asked for an extension up to August 1st. Town council, our town council, our attorneys advised just to be on the safe side, might as well just do it up to September 1st. It looks like Mr. Bearden.
Taylor, are you on?
I am on. Thank you.
Hi. So just read us digest Bridget. When do you guys expect that this credit will finally approve?
So we literally ask our historical consultants, who then go ask the state probably daily during the business week. So the part that we are all waiting on is not actually a credit. It's the preservation restriction that was required by Maynard Historical Commission as a condition of the closing has to get signed off by the state. And so it's the text of the agreement that both parties, meaning Civico and the town of Maynard, have both agreed to, has to get blessed. And until the point at which we receive the blessing from Massachusetts Historical Commission, the document isn't approved, and therefore we wouldn't be in compliance with the terms of the RFP, which required it as a precursor to closing.
Is it pure politics that we're talking about, like just getting somebody to read it? Is there any way we can put any political pressure from perhaps legislators on it to get it approved?
It's a good question. We typically assume that our historic consultants are qualified to do that, because that's kind of why we pay them for their service. It's a quasi lobbying as well as technical assistance function. And so I think within my network, we're leaning on the people that we consider most qualified. But outside of that network, undoubtedly, if the Maynard Historical Commission used their leverage, it's quite possible that we could move that along.
Okay, all right, that's good information.
Thank you.
So, I don't think we have much choice in this right now. That's my thoughts.
I do strongly recommend, as much as I can, and I'm sure Taylor can appreciate this, a certain amount of impatience, because we've been trying to sell Coolidge School for a while. It's a give and take. If we decide not to go with Civico anymore, we'd have to go out to bid again.
That's the point.
Yeah.
We don't have much choice at this point. Given the time and effort that they've put into it, given the time and effort that we put into it, and how close we are to the goal line, it makes no sense to stop, so.
And the other part that's holding it up is something that was in our RFP,
That's
so
Yeah,
really.
good point.
Yeah. I move.
Yep.
I will move to approve the extension of the deadline from September 1st, 2022 for the closing and deed conveyance for 12 Bancroft Street to Consigli Real Estate Holdings LLC, doing business as Civico Development, with the condition that the closing occur within 15 days of the Massachusetts Historical Commission's approval of the pertinent preservation restriction, and authorize the town administrator to execute the extension on our behalf.
Second.
Any further comments, questions? All in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay, item number 19.
Thank you, Taylor.
Item number-
Thank you,
Becky
Gail.
Taylor, item number 14 rather, is Powder Mill Road, Waltham Street Development. Two items, A and B, both somewhat related. One is the review of the draft host community agreement on UPA. And secondly is the development review of the draft development agreement on Powder Mill Road. Now, I thought I saw that Liz was on earlier. There she is. Hi, Liz, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about what we see in front of us as far as what might have changed, not changed, what we should focus on, and where we're at.
So the primary change to this agreement, the development agreement, or do you want me to talk about the UPA host community agreement first?
What does the board prefer? UPA first?
Yeah.
UPA first.
So UPA has changed to include all of the recommendations from the prior meeting, specifically the parking, all of the language that you requested be changed at the last meeting. Everything that was in red line has conformed with what we discussed previously. So the parking is now limited to 3 cars in the lot. And let me think, what else?
There was some contention on the 3% being reviewed and et cetera. Where is that in this agreement?
It is set at 3% in the agreement. So there are no outstanding issues in terms of the agreement as it's presented in front of you.
So we agreed to 3 vehicles, not 6.
Say again?
We agreed to 3 vehicles, not 6, basically.
Yeah.
Initially was.
Yeah, so this agreement would mirror in essence the other agreements that we approved along the way.
Yes.
Similar type business.
Maybe did you find out about the expense on the vehicle?
Yes, we would be flexing it, that's. Sorry, I didn't send that out earlier.
That's okay.
Entitled excess tax on the 3 vehicles that are there,
On the vehicles registered, yes.
if they're registered in Maine.
Yep, the Attorney Gomes indicated that their vehicles would be registered in Maynard.
It's like, for example, when we have a rental vehicle company,
Mhm.
those you don't get. Excise spend. Okay, the agenda for this evening was drafted in such a way that it said review draft, so we cannot have a vote. It was just to review the draft unless I'm instructed otherwise by.
You can, but yeah, that's not the expectation. Go ahead.
Do you mind if I give a little background?
Please.
Thank you. So when we first started to look at this project, this is a key corner for downtown Maynard. And the presentation of the project included a few different elements. It included a delivery marijuana retailer, and it also included a mixed use development on the site. So when we were strategizing, when we got direction, town administration got direction from the select board about how to proceed, The recommended path, which was adopted by the development review team that consisted of Armand and Chris on the select board, and then Chris and Bob on the planning board, was to look at both a host community agreement and a development agreement together. And the purpose of that is really to protect the town's interest in seeing the whole site developed as it was presented. So while this is the second time the board has seen the host community agreement, and all the feedback was included, my recommendation would be to review the development agreement as well. This is the first time you're looking at this one. And to come back and, if you were going to consider moving on both documents, to do it at the same time to ensure, that the site is looked at holistically.
Fair enough. Okay, Liz, give us a little bit of detail on the Waltham Street Development Agreement.
So the development, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. The development agreement is set up based on the town's bylaw. Pursuant to that bylaw, they're required to enter into this development agreement. And so some of the language is specific to the requirements of the bylaw itself. In this agreement, in order to prevent the development, in order to prevent the developer from leaving before the development is completed, we've added a surety amount of $300,000 as security prior to execution of the agreement. And in the event that the developer pulls out for any reason, the bond would go to the town for purposes of advertising the property, and the developer would be required to sell the property within a reasonable amount of time, or advertise a property for sale, to ensure that it's not left as a vacant lot. And I think that protects the town's interests in investing time and effort into this property and then seeing it not come to fruition.
I have a couple other things to add, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a few, exciting elements that are included in this presentation that I just want to make sure everyone's aware of, listening at home. One of them is for the 28 units that is proposed for this site, 25% would be affordable, so that would be 7 units. As Liz mentioned, it does mirror our bylaw, so it includes a required contribution to either the Community Preservation Fund or an equivalent fund dedicated to the acquisition of and preservation of open space. So that's included. I think the most exciting element, looking at Armand as he was on the development review or the review team, is the design and construction of a publicly accessible Riverview Pavilion on site. There had been a lot of discussion and feedback at the public meetings about wanting to incorporate the river, and this is the solution that was presented and discussed. So that's kind of that is a big part of the contribution of the development.
Which includes the bike racks and the lockers.
Yeah, there's also, a real desire to look at this site from a complete streets perspective to make sure that there's bicycle parking for the residents of the development and also visitors to the commercial aspect of the development. There's also improvement of some of the infrastructure at that corner, which Justin and Wayne are very happy about in this draft. So it includes, which is in our bylaw, that we can't request, the conversion of underground utilities. So there's one telephone pole on the developer's property currently, so that would be buried to remove some of the the telephone pole basically and all the wires. That would all be underground. And there are pedestrian improvements to the intersection, and it'd be some new curb cuts, which if you're ever out there, it is not an accessible intersection. So this development agreement would require the developer to create curb cuts and ramps that are ADA accessible, so that residents of the new property and of the town and visitors would be able to access all 4 corners of the intersection. And finally, there'd be some new pavement. We can have some out here. But I think what Liz brought up was the thought about feasibility. And I'll say that our development review team talked a lot about what if something happens here and they can't do it? You know, this is a challenging site. All the easy sites in Maynard have been developed. You know, it leaves some tricky ones. It's right next to the river. It's right in a main intersection. You know, there's things that come up. So to think about, you know, how can we protect the town and the select board vision to see this property through, but also be realistic about what if something comes up, you know, and they need to get on it. So what was, you know, decided on was a surety bond for $300,000. And so if they don't go through with the development for, you know, a reason that is justified and spelled out through a formula here, the town will get that security bond. But we would also, you know, the question that came up in discussion is, what are we going to do with that money? And what is kind of the point of that? And the real opportunity, I mean, hopefully we don't go there. Like, this is not what we want. But if the development is not happening, we would get access to all of the studies, all of the work that was put into the site. So we know, you know, what could be feasible here. And we would also have funds to put towards marketing the parcel, trying to focus on site readiness and get to a point to be a little more proactive in economic development and attract a developer to create something else if what is proposed here is not feasible. So that's kind of where we left it. And like I said, there had been a lot of conversation with the developer, with the members of the planning board and the members of the select board that have been working on this. And this document that you see before you, everyone on both sides of the negotiating team, obviously not the whole select board, and this is the first time you're seeing it, felt comfortable with this draft. And I recommend that this does protect the best interest of the town, but it's also, you know, the developer is comfortable with what you see.
I also want to thank Megan. She did a fabulous job behind the scenes, and there was a lot of work. And I appreciate Adam for being patient and working through it with us. So hopefully all comes through and a beautiful development will take place. There's a rendition is really, really nice. If it happens the way it's, you know, designed, it's going to be gorgeous. Questions?
No, Adam showed up and waited, so I assumed they would be back.
Any questions?
I don't know.
Couple questions. The affordable units deeded as such?
Yeah.
Cannot be changed?
It'd be the same local action process that we've been doing lately with other developments.
Okay. And then second question is, I think we learned some lessons, or at least we should have, relative to the Riverview Pavilion issue over at the River Brothers building and the issues that we ran into with some of the DPW, not DPW, but the state level, DEP concerns, et cetera. This $300,000, if a DEP issue comes up, is that something that leads to a default where the DEP says you can't do that because of X, Y, or Z, where we are protected from that perspective as well?
So that's a really good question. And we've talked a little bit about, and I have Julia Flannery, who's our conservation agent, on too. She might chime in a second, but I think that both the town's conservation commission and the state, it's usually more of a nuanced response, and it's not always no. It's like you have to do X, Y, and Z to get to a yes. Now, is that too expensive to move on and the holistic part of the project? Maybe, but that's why we have in there, for the developer to put in a calculation of anticipated costs, and if it's over 25%, and that proof of yes, it is this much more, and get that peer reviewed, verified, that could be a potential out. if there's something, if there's an issue there that raises the cost so significantly. As a solution to the DEP Conservation Commission or one of the other reviewing bodies for the project, because there's still a lot more.
I guess we want to make sure that we're protected in a way that and I don't know if this is our board or the planning board, at this point, if we're signing a development agreement, it's us. Where they can't begin building and then run into a situation, and we protected ourselves over with the Gruber Brothers building, because they didn't start any of the building process until they got the approval on DEP issues. I don't want people to jump the gun and start working on the project and then, oh, the DEP says we can't get there, but you know what, we'll forego the river air aspect of it and won't put it in, and then what's our protection to ensure that we get something? There should be a penalty for not fulfilling, and we've had a problem in Maynard historically with development agreements going in and not being necessarily followed up on as the project goes on. Development agreements are just pure agreements that we have that are not fulfilled, so.
That's a good point. I think Julia, do you
Yeah.
want in on the sequencing of the permitting?
Yeah, so, you're right, and we've learned a lot of lessons. Obviously, I am newer to the town, but something that's really important to me, and I know to Adam and some of the other people who are involved in this project, is, we're starting those discussions now. So, all of that we have seen are preliminary designs. But, we are working towards making sure that they are fully aware of, getting a wetland consultant in as soon as possible, making sure that they know the line at which they trigger Army Corps permits. And, like Megan said, it's really never a no. It's more of a, these are the things that need to get done in order to achieve the goal. So the other thing that I just want to mention too is that we hope to go through this sequence in conjunction with planning board. So, they'll come in front of conservation the next, week, they'll go in front of planning, or within this, within the same couple of weeks, and then we'll bounce back and forth. So that way in the design process, if planning has a concern and then conservation looks at their suggestion and is like, oh, wait, that actually affects the stormwater, we don't want to see that type of grading, et cetera, that we are working all together. So that way at the end, they're getting their conservation permits, they're getting their planning permits, and no board is caught off guard. So it should help move the process along a little bit faster than going through one board and moving on to the next.
Thank you. Bill Nemser, I see you're online. If you have a quick moment to just briefly talk about the planning board's role in this process moving forward.
At this point, the development agreement requires, but the zoning bylaws state that both the planning board and the select board have to agree and execute the development agreement. Assuming that was taken care of, the project would come forward probably, as Julia said, simultaneously with Conservation Commission and Planning Board, but it would be required to go through the Planning Board approval. Now, because that's in the downtown overlay district, and because we're developing under that particular zoning designation, there are components that are involved in that review process. For example, design review. In the case of the designation of affordable units and the commitment of affordable units, we would want to, the planning board wouldn't coordinate it, but they would follow the process, what we call the LIP, the local initiative process, to dedicate the affordable units. Conservation Commission, of course, works in partnership with the planning board throughout the process. And lastly, I would imagine there would be quite a bit of offline coordination between the planning board and DPW because of the complexities of the site.
Bill, would you think it would be wise, as we move forward with a discussion on the development agreement, given that we don't want to have the planning board have issues with the development agreement that might conflict with issues that the select board have, should we have a joint meeting on the development agreement?
My opinion, and I, with the understanding, I haven't discussed this with the planning board. Right, my opinion is that is always a good thing. The more communication between the boards, and in this case, with the two boards that are required to execute the agreement, I think it would always help. That said, we have had a subgroup of the planning board and of select board that has met probably 4 to 5 times, as well as a number of times via email to coordinate the components of the agreement. So while I think the communication is always an excellent idea, and I think you've seen that I try to promote that, I would also be comfortable with that both of the representatives of the respective boards have met with enough and had an awful lot of time together to discuss the issues. But
and Bill, not to stop you, but a lot of those concerns and questions are brought up by Chris and by Bob, and I think they did a great job in bringing concerns up. And that was one of the purpose of having a group getting together for the agreement.
My only thought is that we've never had a discussion.
Oh,
We've never had a discussion here with you about our thoughts about what should include. So that's.
Well, what's the purpose of having a group then?
Because that's what you have a representative go.
I understand what you're saying, but now the agreement's in front of you, so.
I get that, but there might be members of the planning board that have different opinions on how things might be adopted, and members of the board here just say, hey, how about this? That may not have been reflected. I know my thoughts made it to that because I never spoke to you in a public meeting about it. Right. Or to Chris.
Well, may I speak, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Yeah, remember an important part of this approval process is the special permit and site plan approval by the planning board. So were there issues that arose, the planning board is not obligated by executing this development agreement to complete the site plan approval or the special permit approval. If there was something that they felt was drastic or needed addressing, it would be addressed at the site plan or special permit part of the process.
Got it.
Bill, when's the next, do you know off the top of your head when the next planning board meeting is?
Next planning board meeting is July 20, I think it's 26. I don't have a calendar in front of me. But it's the
Yes,
last.
you're right.
Yeah, 26.
Hey, that's the same night.
Maybe they'll come here.
Well, so that could be a possibility that we kind of share. Do y'all do in person, or how do you do your planning board?
We hybrid the same way that you're doing it, in the same seat that you're sitting in, actually.
Okay.
We get these seats. I'll leave it to Jeff and Greg to talk about whether or not they want to have a joint meeting.
Do you see that strong preference? David?
I would prefer to have a joint meeting so that and I think it helps the applicant because they're not waiting on a separate meeting from the selectmen versus the versus the planning board.
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Chair. That Bill, I just want to make sure it's clear. Do you suspect that and I know you can't speak for the chair of the planning board. Do you suspect that this development agreement will be brought to them at that time, July 26th?
Yes, if the board and senior leadership there felt that this was the best course to have a meeting, I believe that a joint meeting, I believe that the planning board would be willing to, dedicate a portion of this meeting to hearing and discussing this development agreement. I think they would and again, I'm speaking really, you kind of caught me off guard with that one, but I would imagine they would entertain, if possible, execution that night by, if that was the way that they
Does the
select
planning
board wanted
board approve a development agreement on the night it's first presented to them?
I think that is something that we don't, we don't, in my experience with the planning board, they're not actually seeing it for the first time when it's presented. So behind the scenes, each member will have input on it, and there'll be a number of reiterations. I do that for efficiency, to just make sure that everybody's seen it, everybody's done, but it's not unnecessarily, it doesn't just get hung up as things can get hung up. But I cannot speak. They may tell me, what are you saying tonight? Of course, we're not going to sign it tonight. But from my experience, I would say that I believe they would be comfortable entertaining a discussion with the select board at their next meeting. And perhaps, I hate to say it, and I don't want to go out and say they would vote on it, but I would imagine they would.
Don't guess. They'll have a discussion with us. We can't guarantee that they'll vote on it.
Right.
I think it's possible to have a conversation with Bill and Chris. I think is still the chair. Chris still the chair.
Chris is the chair. Yeah.
And then we can just see if we can make it happen. And that'll give you all 2 more weeks to look at this and let myself, or primarily Megan, of course, know if you have any questions about it. I'm putting up the development agreement. I don't know, but as well as the host community agreement of the because they are related, although the other one doesn't require funding. And then we can see if we can sort of like mesh the 2 somehow between floors here in town hall.
Assuming we have air conditioning.
Yeah. If we don't,
otherwise
bigger. There'll be mutinies if I don't. So, but I think it's possible.
So, playing the devil's advocate now, I honestly, we don't want to separate, obviously, we don't want to separate the 2 agreements. We want to keep it together as one. But one is going to slow down the process of the other.
Well, I think it's up to the board. So if you all want to continue, if you feel comfortable, we could put the up and in hosting agreement as well on the best.
That's my.
So then, and then it's up to the board if you all want to vote.
I don't think we will move forward without the development agreement. And that was correct. Yeah, so they continue to be attached.
Right,
until they
that's what I'm saying. So if we have the discussion at that time to agree upon this, somehow or another, again, I'm not trying to be stimulant here, but if we could somehow or another move the host community agreement and a different progress space.
No, I think my answer to that is no, because they're attached to one.
All right.
I don't want to approve the host community agreement and then have us.
Because that takes a little
stuck with
longer.
an agreement that may not match with the
I understand what you're saying.
development.
Just I'm talking about from the state perspective, it takes a little longer to process.
We'll put the
That's
motion up for next time, and if we don't feel comfortable doing something, we can
Yeah.
not take the
All right.
motion if we choose to, but we'll have a
Maybe-
motion.
maybe forget that.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's fine.
All right, good, we'll move on. Fiscal year budget transfers, Greg, do we have them all?
Okay. No, so this is, wait, did y'all?
Thanks, everybody.
You did this last time, did you?
We did.
Thank you.
There were two agreements that we moved forward last time from, I don't have them in front of me now. But these aren't the same ones that we did the last time.
No, these are actual list of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We did,
You could give Mr. Stafford a chance to speak.
Oh.
We
yeah, but it was a discussion for the board. It wasn't a discussion for the applicant, I'm sure. If you have something to say, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Nicholas Gomes, counsel for UPA Inc. I just wanted to say to the board, it appears that the interest of the board appears to wait until the development agreement and the host community agreement can be voted on at the same time. I understand the planning board review element as well. UPA's position, of course, is they've been patiently waiting. We listened to the feedback at the last meeting. We sent a revised host community agreement incorporating those changes and the wisdom gleaned from the board. I think the host community agreement would be, is in a final form ready for a vote. But that being said, if the board is interested in securing the development agreement at the same time, then of course, we're going to wait until we can have the vote on both. So thank you very much for the information today, so we could get that update, and we look forward to the next meeting, and we'll follow the agendas and appear at that meeting, and hopefully we can get a positive vote at that time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so sorry, Greg. Sorry, Attorney Phillips. So yeah, the last time we had, there were two,
Those are
transfers from the schools. These are different.
Oh, sorry. So, right, so perhaps it was a reserve fund. So this, but this is the end of year transfers, which is kind of standard. At the end of the year, of course, as we kind of look at what this, yeah. So I think, we look at what outstanding expenses we have and what balance we have remaining in the various accounts for the general fund. Now, we're quite fortunate. Now, this is pretty standard practice, and usually there's a number of accounts that are under expended, right? So that we can do this game every year. In this case, health insurance has a significant amount of remaining funds because there was a premium holiday. So our health insurance provider, Maya, gave us a premium holiday for a month, meaning like we just didn't have to pay the premium that month. So and so there was more than enough to be able to transfer from the health insurance as well as police. So I'm referencing what's on board docs, this document that was created by the town accountants and finance team to show what our balances are and what those expenses we cover. So the police department has a substantial amount of money in their salaries accounts that they can use to cover some outstanding expenses, one of which was to the replacement of their camera system. There was an email attached as well that just the chief just tracks of this thing, as well as any unforeseen, like $80,000 is obviously a rounded up number to make sure there was any outstanding bills. But the rest of them are pretty accurate because departments know what they have to cover, and I would say for the most of this, there's no real surprises. We had the clerk union contract that we had to make sure it was compensated for in all the departments. Our legal account was a little high than what we projected, of course, because we've been litigating Railroad Street for months now, and data processing is something else I would highlight, which is that's always difficult to project. Although we've been working with DriveTech, our IT provider, to identify and work and budget towards an asset replacement. I'm aiming assets to be like laptops and computers, but otherwise, things break and assets have to get replaced or whatnot, and or other sort of circumstances, or people have to cut. We pay DriveTech to come in and fix our stuff, and that adds up. So $18,000 for transfer pay for the outstanding expenses for data processing, that does not surprise me. And we'll look at it. We try to do a good job of looking at what our final budgets are, and then try to adjust for that every year. But we do the best we can. I'm trying to look if there's anything else I want to highlight. Oh, snow and ice. So snow and ice, there was a substantial amount of free cash, as there is every year. That's allocated at town meeting for the appropriation to cover our snow and ice expenses. And we captured a lot, but not all of it. As you can see, $54,674 beyond what was appropriated from town meeting from free cash. That's not as surprising as well. I don't know, for whatever reason, snow and ice seems to be like a rolling bills that we just collect after we get adjusting down our head. I don't know why. I faced the same thing when I was working for the state. I don't know why it is. Snow and ice is not cheap, and it's, as I said in the budget development cycle leading up to town meeting, although it may not seem like there's a significant amount of snowfall, treatment is expensive, and those costs, yes, for our own personnel, but for the contractors, and then the cost of those materials, it's not going down. So again, next year, we'll look at what free cash is available, and we'll try to capture it as best we can.
I will say that one thing that we found is, or that I've found is that, even though there's, when you have the smaller storms, but then you have the melting at night and the freezing.
Yeah.
The melting during the day and the freezing at night, you might not see snow for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
but the guys have gone out every night
Yeah.
because they had salt, so.
Yep.
It definitely, you don't see the 7 feet of snow, but it costs as much as 7 feet.
I was gonna say that cost, sometimes even costs more.
Right.
That's right. The constant reapplication. Yeah. So there's nothing, I think I hit the highlights, but of course I'll take any questions you may have. But none of this is, I don't think there's, in my opinion, there doesn't seem to be anything in left field.
Looks pretty remarkable that it's limited, in the number, so, there's not really many major adjustments that were made that could be foreseeable like that.
Sure.
Well, I think health insurance.
Oh, big time. Typically that is the case, that, as I say every time, we deliberately overestimate our health insurance, and sometimes that provides us the savings.
All right, so you just need our approval if this is going.
I do, it already went to the finance committee last night, and
Oh,
they
it's
did
already
approve
gone.
it. Yes.
I will move to approve the end of year budget transfers for fiscal year 2022 as presented.
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Great.
Thank you.
All right, item number 16, personnel agreements. As we discussed in executive session tonight, the fire chief's agreement is not yet ready because of various issues. We do have Megan's agreement ready for approval.
Right.
So we can take a motion on that.
I will move to ratify the personnel agreement with Megan Smudo as Assistant Town Administrator for the term to end June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Okay. Greg, do you want to give any, for the public's purposes, any insight?
Yeah, so, and of course, her contract will be public after this. I think Megan is well deserving and I very much appreciate her offer to stay with the town. And I'd like to keep Megan as long as possible. I don't think she is asking for anything that is undeserving in her contract. And for the public's sort of awareness, her contract matches nearly word for word mine, with a couple of exceptions. I think her compensation request was fair, and she also is looking for some further professional development, which I think is not only encouraged, but I'm glad to be able to provide it. And I look forward to working with Megan.
I think I can speak on behalf of the entire board and say we echo your comments relative to Megan's value to us and to our community, as well as the fact that we are appreciative of the professionalism that she brought to the whole process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Here. So, okay, we have the motion. We have the second. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Megan.
Thank you very much.
And the DPW laborers contract is still pending.
It is, although we did come to an agreement.
It's just gotta be approved.
That's right. So I'll come back to the board when it's approved by the union.
Okay, item number 17 is setting the date for a special town meeting for the fall of 22. Is it clear we're gonna need one?
Yeah, I think so.
Set the date regardless, and then.
That's my recommendation. Now, you're right, Mr. Chair, that we could, and we've done this in the past, where you can accomplish what maybe the needs of a fall town meeting, as is tradition that we do in the spring, in coinciding with this annual town meeting. However, one sort of big thing is whatever the state budget is going to look like, and whatever sort of new revenues we can identify over the course of the summer.
Yeah.
That's usually some of the big hitters, but there may be other items. I don't know, sometimes if there's something that we want to kind of like a special focus on, the fall town meeting could be a good use for that. I think off the top of my head, if there's anything we're looking to do, maybe the disposition of the fire station, I'd love to get that. But that depends on when the new fire station's occupied.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
It'll be out of there in August, September.
There might be zoning things.
Yeah.
If
So,
we
yeah,
approve this timeline tonight, how long do we have if we decide we don't want a second for the fall town meeting?
This is only sort of establishing the date of the town meeting. I'm trying to look when the actual notice has to go out. September 9th, select board publishes notice of following a special town meeting.
Oh, this is just an informal agreement to the date, that's the.
Yeah.
Okay,
It sets aside the date.
right.
Yeah.
Yep, okay, very good.
Almost like
So September 9th was the answer to my question.
Yep.
And the date that we have chosen is October 24th.
It is a Monday night, back in the auditorium.
Yeah.
Try that again.
Yeah.
You know, you read I hate to say it, but you read you know, people are saying, that
Yeah.
the scientists are saying that there's things that
Yeah.
come.
Yeah, there you go.
So, okay, is there a motion?
Do we have the motion? for that? Do we need-
I don't think you do need a motion. Oh, it does, so Becky she does a good job with this. She does have on the timeline itself, that the select board vote to hold a special town meeting. I don't think that's required because you have to publish a notice, like. I don't think that's required, but you can sort of vote to hold the meeting at this time. But it's up to the board.
I'll move to set the date of the special town meeting for the fall of 2022. For Monday, October 24th, 2022 in the Fowler School Auditorium.
Second.
Any further comments? All in favor? Good.
Thank you.
Chair report, I don't have anything this evening specifically. I'm trying to think if I did get a comment from somebody. One comment I do have, while I'm excited for the news that we got about the purchase or the intended purchase of the property by Open Table.
Yep.
Over behind El People.
Yep.
I'm wondering if we lose potential tax revenue, although right now we're not getting any. If nothing's there, so we're getting the
Well, they're paying taxes on it.
building tax.
Yeah.
But we will lose all that presumably, if it goes to a nonprofit.
I don't know if we're talking about them a lot. Anyway.
I mean, that's true.
No, but there's also the potential.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but it's been like that.
So
You have to balance that against the benefit open table provides to the
that's
community, which
that's
is
great.
huge.
Agree.
I'm happy to speak. This is Alana as a representative because I am a avid volunteer with Open Table. If you have any particular questions.
Go ahead,
Um,
Like, do you have any insight as to like what the potential use? I think I know, but I think it'd be good. Like, what do you think the warehouse could be?
Warehousing.
it is Open Table's annex. It is going to be used for distribution purposes. Yes, holding foods. It's going to make our job of maintaining the amounts of foods and the special requests for particular culturally appropriate foods a lot easier. We simply don't have enough space for all the things that we need to be able to have at Distribution Weekly. It also allows us to utilize the Greater Boston Food Banks. They deliver on a basis due to volume. So you have to be able to get so many pallets and poundage and whatnot. And so this is going to make that a lot easier. And also what I like about it is we will not disrupt El Hoopil's patio in any way. Whereas if that were to become a business, they would need a front door and they would probably not want the setting that they have right there, whereas perfectly fine with us. So
Alana, are they gonna have to put in like freezers in that location?
yes, it will have refrigeration and freezers.
All right. So other than that, that was one observation I had. Don't think there's anything else that I can think of that I want to speak of tonight. So, Armin.
Oh, got a few things here. So one of the things I have to mention right up top is the Jazz Festival. It was a tremendous success. We estimated anywhere between 250 to 400 people attended throughout the concert. Some of us started walking through downtown, and there was a little buzz going on in downtown. People were walking around, some were going to the festival, they were going to eat. So it created a little excitement. In fact, last night we got together with the group, we debriefed about what went right, what went wrong, what could improve on it. And we're already thinking about starting to plan in October for next year. And I think there was a lot of success in Kate Bowden showed up, and it was a nice surprise. She was very appreciative of what was going on. She said she gets this in town. So it was a success from our standpoint. A lot of work when
I wasn't in town. How busy was the beer?
it was busy. Yeah, it was busy. He did pretty good. Alan did pretty good there.
Very hot day.
It was very, that was one of the things we learned, because we had that open space. Unfortunately, we didn't have, turned out to be a real hot day. And a lot of people were up in Memorial Park, under the trees, a lot of people were in the parking lot under the trees. And eventually, some people brought some tents, we were able to put some tents, pop-up tents, but next year we'll learn. They were actually thinking that having it in Memorial Park next year, possibly. So anyway, we're just talking about what could we do to improve on it and to make it a better, even what we had this year. But I had a great committee. I mean, I'm gonna miss DJ. DJ was tremendous. But we had a great committee working hard and diligent and passionate, and everything worked that well. It was it was really good. So
Congratulations.
it was a lot of work by those people. In fact, we're constantly still talking about what we're gonna do to make it better. And I also appreciate Linda Thayer, that she jumped in on board with us. She wasn't part of the committee initially, but she just liked what was going on, and she got involved, and she helped us out with a lot of, she'd be coming up with stuff that she knows better than us. So she do this, ask about this. So she was behind the scenes and making sure that we got all the ducks in order. And then the other thing is that I'm also excited about is Zana Noe, for those of you that don't know, she was the acting chair of the Cultural Council while Sarah was on leave. And she did a tremendous job with the Cultural Council, and now she's kind of taking charge on the cultural district side. And we're getting together. We have 18 people that we put together in that so-called working group. That's what we're calling it. Yeah, we meet on a regular basis. We're gonna have a big meeting on the 18th at a sanctuary. Was hosted for us. So we're gonna be it's gonna be open to the public to come in and start talking about it. A lot of us are very excited about the fact that the cultural district becomes fabric of the economic development, downtown economic development. So that should become something interesting. And on the committee, we have so many people from all diverse backgrounds and willing to help out. Members of NBA, members of cultural council, members of development, just a nice group of people. So I'm excited to work with those people. And then the other group that I'm working with is the Maynard Senior, we call the Senior Center Focus Group. And there's about 12 people on that. We're meeting at the library, next meeting. That's open to the public also. And all we're really doing is just kind of going through options, short-term, long-term options. I went in front of the COA board and they invited me now to come to all the meetings. And I kind of briefed them on what's going on. And Amy's gonna meet with me tomorrow actually to go over some of the things that we talked about. Anyway, so that's I'm staying as involved as I can. All I'm doing is right away, I just steer stuff. I don't make recommendations. I don't say anything. I just kind of move the process along. So good people on both sides, on both boards, committees. I can say. Anyway, that's all. Oh, the last thing is, I think I mentioned this to one of you. I attended the Cannabis Forum at the DCU Center. Very interesting. Big turnout. And one of the things that came out at that meeting was the fact that last year, Massachusetts collected more tax revenue from cannabis than from alcohol. And it was interesting because it was, people in attendance were attorneys and consultants and owners of businesses, and some were actually delivery companies, and I just wanted to get a feel for what's going on. So it was good, an eye opener to see what the industry is doing and where it's going. They still have little bumps on that they have to clear up, but seems like they got a lot of those bumps out of the way and heading in the direction. So anyway, but that was a good meeting for me. Yeah. That's all I got. Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing for me tonight, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I just had a couple things. So first, I wanted to say I'm very excited that Town Heroes Committee is still moving forward, unfortunately without me, but they're still doing an amazing job. So they've started with phase 2. They actually did get, I want to say it's 31 banners created that were, they put out a call for, I believe, any veteran in Maynard from Maynard. So I got a sneak peek of the proofs the other day. So you know, Kim Lally and the group has done an amazing job. And so those I'm sure we'll hopefully be seeing by veterans. So I'm speaking out of turn, but I think that's when they're the goal for it to be up. So very excited for that. I'm so excited to see them keep going with that. I did want to say I didn't share this with Becky, Bridget, in correspondence, but we got a thank you from Thomas Babayan, who was the Eagle Scout that I did like the after proclamation. So he wanted to, he said, I would like to truly thank all of you for a special proclamation at the Thomas Babayan Day on June 15th and for helping celebrate the awesome rank that is Eagle Scout. I've worked as hard as possible to reach this goal, and making it to the finish feels better than I could have ever imagined. I would especially like to thank Mrs. St. John for presenting this proclamation to me in person. Thank you once again, respectfully, Thomas.
Very nice.
So that's very nice. It was great. And then last is that I feel like, and just new Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if we can put something on the agenda regarding the MSBA process for the next meeting. And I have a meeting with the Green Meadow Building Committee on the 18th, so we'll have more to update, you know, for the 26th. And that way, I think it's something that we probably should kind of keep regularly, so we all know what's going on and there aren't no surprises. I don't get a chance to fully discuss it.
Yeah, how frequently are you thinking when you say regularly?
I would say maybe every other month, but it's still.
Sounds.
Yeah, we'll see if that's needed, but this one and then go from there. Yeah. So,
And then, so, before, you done?
yeah, I'm done.
Before we break,
No, does Chris have anything to say? I'm sorry.
Chris, is off. I
Chris
did
is on.
share with the board and Greg, the MMA concerns relative to the legislation that was brought up with the House of Representatives. I have spoken via text twice now with Representative Hogan. I think she's on it. I think she understands what the concerns are, but that could be a very impactful issue for a community like ours that is filled with volunteerism and small little meetings. You know, when you're just in your summary there, we talked about, oh, we have this meeting. And Armin said in this meeting, well, some of those may actually make the qualification of public meeting, and suddenly they have to be via Zoom, and they have to be, you know, it could be a nightmare. So I think it's one of those unexpected consequences that unintended consequences intended to be open to the public, which we all want, but restricted to a small community.
And I'm sure Kate heard that, I'm sure from other towns. No.
Yeah, I'm sure she's now starting to hear.
different topic, I just come back to me, but I attended the groundbreaking for the Assabet
Oh,
Co-op
that's
Market, and. it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
I could do that for
fantastic.
that.
I, it's a bit of a secret. No, they're up to 1,900 members. This has been years in the making. Both Senator Eldridge and Representative Hogan were in attendance, and speakers from the board, and Lauren Bell, and their general manager, Jim McCormick. And so, no, it was a great event, and Greg was there as well, and they're moving forward and beginning demo inside of there, and they're looking forward to opening. Didn't give a specific open date deliberately, but I think there was a lot of energy, and it's nice to see some physical progress at that site as well, and of course tied into all the work that Bill Nems and the planning board have done on the Powder Mill corridor, connecting up into Acton as well, so.
Very good.
It's all learn. I'm looking forward to the cafe on the river.
I'll let them know.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Good night, thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
Jeff, you still on?